Hello, my loves. Welcome to your Cosmic Weather Report for the week ahead. Now, we are starting this week with Mercury stationing retrograde on Monday, but we are not going to fear the retrograde, okay? Repeat after me. We are not going to fear Mercury retrograde. Instead, we're going to get through it, as always, together, and we're going to understand it a little bit more. So I know that Mercury retrograde has become a really fashionable thing to talk about, and that we all like to blame Mercury retrograde for everything. And it is kind of fun to be able to blame Mercury retrograde for everything that's going on. But Mercury retrograde actually gives us this beautiful opportunity to slow down, to go inwards, to pay attention, and to learn some really, really valuable lessons. Now, Mercury governs transport, communication, tech. So when Mercury stations retrograde, these things can tend to kind of mess up a little bit. So transport doesn't quite work out the way it's meant to. Tech tends to malfunction a little bit or not work at all. Our communication can be a little bit more challenging in the fact that we feel like we're saying something, the other person's just not getting it. And we're like, why does this feel so difficult? Why does it feel like I'm just not being understood at the moment? But Mercury does this in order to help us to slow down. So are the words you're speaking really the words that you want to be speaking, coming from a place of integrity and truth, and really the words you want to speak from your heart? Can you slow down a little bit? Can you give yourself a little bit of extra time to travel? Are you always rushing and rushing and rushing around here, there and everywhere? If tech is a little bit glitchy, do you really need to send that email right now? Do you really need to be in the scroll hole right now? Mercury retrograde gives us this gorgeous invite to just slow down. Because in this modern day world, we spend so much of our time rushing, speaking really quickly here, there and everywhere. And Mercury's like, just slow down. Now, again, I know that we tongue-in-cheek like to blame Mercury for exes coming back around, and there's a big thing about exes come back around in Mercury retrograde, and there can be some truth to this, because when we think of Mercury retrograde, we want to think of all the re-words. So Mercury retrograde helps us to revisit, reflect, review, realign, reconsider. And so as Mercury moves backwards, or appears to from our vantage point on Earth, Mercury helps us to go back over things in the past and shows us where there is unfinished business or loose ends, and where our past is affecting our present, and where things from the past are coming into our present. And so as these things from the past come back up, it's a really powerful opportunity to be able to learn the lessons, to check in with, how would I have done things differently, knowing what I now know? And how can I now do things differently, knowing what I now know? It gives us this opportunity to speak our truth, to say what we maybe should have said back then, to close things off, to complete things, to finish things, to really close that door on things. Because when we have lots of open doors, it prevents us from walking through the doorways ahead of us, because there's a bit of us that's always looking back to those open doors. So Mercury retrograde really helps us to close the doors on the past where things are unfinished and need to be completed. So if you do have anything stirring up from your past, and it doesn't only need to be exes, but it might be old work situations or old confrontations that happened, or things in friendships, anything that might come back up, it's a powerful opportunity to look at, what are the lessons I need to be learning from this? What do I need to do differently? And where do I need to close and complete and really finish this off? Now, this Mercury retrograde is going to be really powerful in helping us to slow down, because the retrograde begins in Virgo, so one of the signs that Mercury rules. So Mercury's really at home here. Mercury's going to station retrograde in Virgo, move backwards then into Leo on, I think it's the 15th of August, continue to retrograde through Leo until the 28th of August, and then station direct and come back through Leo and Virgo. Now, I'll talk about all these dates as we get nearer to them, so I'm not overwhelming you with lots and lots of information. But what you might find on the initial days of this Mercury retrograde, so around the start of this week, is this real sense of frustration and overwhelm in those places in your life where you've taken on too much. especially because we just moved through Lammas, which is that cross-quarter festival that symbolises the peak of summer. We're at those peak of summer energies now where we tend to be a lot more busy, a lot more out there in the world. There's a lot more going on. We're maybe saying yes to a lot more things. And this Mercury retrograde is going to really show you where you've taken on too much, to your detriment, where you're not taking care of yourself, where you're giving away too much of yourself, where you are running yourself ragged too much and really depleting your energy and getting close to a burnout. So pay real attention to where you're feeling frustration or resentment. If you're feeling resentment about things, that's normally a likely sign that we've said yes to something that we really should have said no to. Is there any resentment towards anything, any real frustration towards anything? And what areas of your life are you feeling the most overwhelm around? This is Mercury retrograde really saying to you, this is where you need to slow down a little bit. This is where you need to pause a little bit. This is where you need to check in with, do I really need to be doing all these things? Does my diary really need to be this full over the next few weeks? Can I take a little bit out of my diary and schedule in a little bit more time for downtime, for self-care, for quiet inner reflection and listening? Because if you don't pay attention at Mercury retrograde, that's when it gets messy. That's when those little accidents start to happen, when we continue to rush and push up against an energy that wants to really ask us to slow down. I also want you to just really pay attention to with Mercury being about communication in Virgo. I know Virgo can sometimes get a little bit of a bad rap about being picky and perfectionist, whereas Virgo is actually the real sign of the healer. It's a very powerful healing sign. But what we might notice around the beginning of the week, especially as we've just moved through that Leo new moon, which has really taken us into our heart and our sense of worth, you might find that little inner critic starting to have a little bit of a chatter. And this is really powerful because it shows us that voice that goes on in our minds all the time. It shows us the background noise that's there all the time. So notice where your inner talk is critical, picky, perfectionist. And this is a really good indication of what might be going on in there all the time. And as we slow down and we listen to that voice, we then get to catch it and be like, hey, whoa, hold on a second. And especially when we're busy, this is when the inner talk gets louder and louder and louder. So slow down, pay attention to what's going on in there. Notice how you're talking to yourself. Now, when this same day Venus moves into Virgo, this is a really powerful energy beginning our retrograde, because Venus in Virgo is all about deep devotion, self-care. And so what I want you to commit to over this Mercury retrograde, and this might be the intention you set yourself over this Mercury retrograde, is I want you to deeply devote to yourself. Am I taking care of myself? Am I looking after myself? Am I slowing down enough? Am I keeping a check on that inner critic? Am I watching where the little picky voice wants to have a go at me? Am I exhausted? Am I depleted? I know for me, that voice gets louder when I'm tired. Do I need to rest more? And this is also a wonderful time now to take a little life review and to really check in with, what are you devoting your energy and time and awareness to? Are you devoting it to the outside world, to running around? Can you begin to turn that devotion back to yourself? And so I would love to offer you that as a real ritual or intention for this Mercury retrograde. Can you be in deep devotion to yourself and what you need over this retrograde period, and full permission to say no to things? And you can even tell people it's because Mercury is in retrograde, and that Kirsty on the internet who does those weather report things, she said, I need to devote to myself. What do I need right now? And remember, you doing that gives everybody else permission to also do the same. Now on Wednesday, then we get a really sweet day on Wednesday. We get the Sun sextile Jupiter. This brings optimism, hope, abundance, expansion, a real drive for more. And so this also forms such a sweet part of our Mercury retrograde, because if we are devoting to self and we're turning our energy and our awareness inwards and we're slowing down and we're listening, we're going to be able to really feel those deep inner desires, and where you do desire more in your life, and where you are desiring change. But very often, when we know that there is more to ourselves, to life, and we know we need to make changes, we can sometimes have this really tricky habit of making ourselves too busy so we don't need to listen to those desires that are stirring. So please slow down, especially around the middle of the week, and feel into what it is that wants to stir and awaken and be brought to life through you, where you know you're capable of more and you want more and you've got more to give and more to offer, and where you want more change in your life, and feel into that sense of real inner expansion and hope and optimism. And then begin to go after what you want, but not necessarily in an outward busy way, but in an inner knowing kind of way. And first of all, knowing what it is that you need to do. Now, this is going to be such powerful information then as we move into Thursday, because on Thursday we get a beautiful day. We get Mercury now conjunct Venus, and we get the 8-8 Lionsgate Portal. So first of all, as Mercury meets Venus, remember on the day Mercury station retrograde, Venus also moved into Virgo. This is a time now to know who you are, to go deeply inwards, to find a deep inner understanding of who you are, of what you want, of what you need, of what you desire, of what your values are, of what you want to live by. This is a really beautiful opportunity, and especially if you've checked in with that negative self-talk at the beginning of the week, this is a time now to turn that around, to find real levels of self-love and self-support and self-understanding and self-compassion. And as you slow down more and you come home to yourself more, be with yourself more, you're doing so well. This is what you need. I'm going to give that to you. I'm going to give you this space now to be able to realize the dreams and the desires, and then from that we then find that deep inner trust of how we can begin to go after what it is that we want. But this only all comes with deep slowing down and inner listening. So this is going to be such a gorgeous day to really go inwards, and especially with it being the Lionsgate Portal. The Lionsgate Portal is a beautiful, magical manifestation portal that opens every year between about the 28th of July and the 12th of August, but it peaks on 8-8 because there's really big symbolism to 8 being the infinity symbol. And this is where our spiritual sun aligns with our earthly sun. So this is where we get this opportunity for our soul to begin to light up and rise. We get this opportunity to really begin to live from our soul self, connect to our soul self, set intentions from our heart, from our soul, set real soul goals. And so again, if we've really been with ourselves through this week and we've really slowed down, this is where we can start to really connect to that expansion of soul self that started to awaken as the sun sextile Jupiter, that real expansion of this is who I am, this is what I've got to offer, this is what I desire, this is what I can bring to the world, this is the way I'm going to light myself up and in turn light up everybody around me. This is a powerful day to make your dreams come true, but those deep, deep, deep soul dreams that are coming from that true you, that expanded you, that abundant you. And so set big intentions on this day, really feel into who you're here to be and what you're being called to bring to the world, and enjoy the magic of this portal. If you want to work with these Lionsgate Portal energies, we are doing a special activation and ritual on the night of the 7th. You can get a replay for it, where we're going to really activate and awaken light codes and soul codes within us to really begin to step up as all of who we came here to be. And so what I really want to ask all of you to do is to slow down through the week, to pay attention, to go inwards, to listen to how you're being called to expand and evolve and grow, where there are loose ends that need tying up, and then finding you, soul you, and beginning to live from soul you, beginning to live from soul desires, and allowing those big soul goals to surface, those little ones that kind of scare you a bit, where you're like, oh, could I really do it? Could I really make it happen? On the Lionsgate Portal, You can make anything happen. So set yourself some big soul goals, my love, and I cannot wait to see what we all bring to life. I'm sending you, as always, so much love. Thank you for being here, and I'll be back soon.